Okay. Okay. So this for each is a method which generally will not return anything. It will accept a function as a parameter, and this function will accept couple of parameters. One is element, second is index, and third is array name. One is element, second is index, and third is array name over here. And this, the significance of this element, index, and array that we see over here is the element that is basically currently being processed from the array. That means for the first time it will get the first element, for the second time this will get the second element, third time it will get third element, and so on. So this function that you have defined will be applicable for each and every element of an array at least one time. And that means one time, maximum one time. Okay, the element as a parameter is the current element that is being processed from the array. Index is the index value of the element that is currently being processed in the array. Array name is the same array name that we are trying to declare over here. Index and array name are optional. For each method will work in the same way, however, we use a traditional for method over here. And inside this, we can simply use myArray.forEach. We can declare a function, and whatever the function that you can declare it over here. In this case, we are declaring E, which refers to the element, I, which refers to the index. So this E will automatically get one by one all the values from the array. I will get the index of the value, and then it will print the value over here by using console.log. Okay, that is the use of for each, which will not return anything. Let's see the next one which we have is a map method. Map method will also accept a function as a parameter and have the similar kind of syntax. But what is the use of map? Map function will create a new array. Map function will create a new array with the result of calling the function on every element of an array. It creates a new array, whatever it will also accept a function as a parameter, and whatever the function that you have defined over here will be applicable on each and every element of an array, similar to the for each method that we have seen. Okay, but what is the use of this map function? It creates a new array. Here we have seen that it has returned us a value one by one, but map method will return us a value inside an array. It creates a new array with the result of calling the function on every element of an array. Every element of an array one by one. It creates a new array with the result of calling the function on every element of an array. Which function will be calling? The callback function that we are trying to use over here. Okay, and this map will also return us the value. Returns the array with the exactly same number of element, whatever we have in the original element, original array. What is in this? This for each method will not return anything. Map method will return us the value. It will return us the value. And what it will return? It will return the array. Which array it will return? The array that it will create a new array over here with the result of calling of the function on every element of an array. So this you can consider as a dictionary, right? Dictionary which used to map one by one, right? So mapping means it is trying to map all the elements of an array. So at this point of time, basically map method will return you the exactly same number of element, whatever we have in the original array. So there will be a question, what is difference between map, filter, and reduce? There will be a question that what is difference between map, filter, and reduce. So map function or map method will create a new array with the resulting of calling the function on the each and every element of an array. Filter will also do the same thing, which will create a new array. Reduce have some kind of difference, but filter will also do the same thing. Then what is the difference between map and filter? Map, as the name suggests, it will just map all the elements. That means whatever the function that you try to declare will be applicable on all the elements, and it will return us an array with the exactly same number of elements inside the array. Okay, filter is something which will filter out the value depending on the function that you have written. That means inside the filter, it might not be possible that it will return you the exactly same number of element that you have inside the original array. There can be a chances that the same number or less than the number of element will be available inside an array. And when we talk about a reduce will basically accept again a function, but that will reduce an array to a single element. It will reduce an array to a single element. Let's say sum of all the elements, sum of all the value inside an array, multiplication of all the value inside an array, and so on. Okay, so let's see the syntax that we have for map over here. The syntax will be similar to however we have seen for the for each. The only difference will be the map method instead of for each method. Array name dot map, which will accept a function which will also have the similar parameter, which is element, index, and array name. Significance are also same. So element is similar to the current element being processed. For the first time, first element, second time, second element, and so on. Okay, and then index will be same, which is index that is currently being processed inside the array. The index of the element that is currently being processed. Array name is the array name that will be declaring over here. Okay, example, let's declare a new array over here. We can say it as let my array 1 equals to some value. I'll provide, let's say 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, so on. Example, some value that I've given over here, right? And if you want to, let's say, do some kind of things which is like, let's say, where can we use this example? Let's say when sometimes Amazon, and let's say if you are trying to use Amazon or Flipkart, right? So sometimes what they'll do is they'll also perform you some kind of discount, right? Sometimes they'll give you some kind of discount on the product, okay, in some festival season or some other season. Okay, or let's say you have these are currencies that are available in terms of a USD, and you want to convert all the values and return us all the result of after the conversion. So what we can do is we can declare a variable which, let's say that exchange rate equals to 86 for INR. Let's say these are in the US dollar, and then exchange rate when you try to convert USD to INR will be 86 rupees. Let's say $1 equals to 86. So how will you basically write a function which will be how will you basically utilize this map function which will be applicable on each and every element that are available over here, multiply with this value, and that becomes the INR of all the value that you have given over here. Okay, so how do we use that? So it will be starting with a map function or map method. Okay, and this map where we'll be using on the my array 1, my array dot map, and this map will accept a function as a parameter. That function we can define it over here. It's a function will take two different parameters, like whatever the parameter that we require. So we require an element for sure. This is a mandatory parameter which will get the element from the array. And here, as we are just trying to convert this USD to INR, so we do not require index to be displayed over here. We do not use the index over here, right? Because we do not require the value for the index at this point of time. So the index and array name are optional, similar to this one over here. Okay, so we have accepted a parameter, and inside this we can say it as inside the function we can simply say it as the value that we are trying to get, which is element, the value that we are trying to get, which is an element, and then this element will generally return us what kind of value. So we can also try to first do a conversion. Let's say let INR value equals to element into ER. This will convert the value from the USD to INR by just multiplying the value one by one. So what is this element? This element is available as an argument inside the function. This will get one by one value from the array. Okay, first time it will get 100. It will multiply 100 into 86, and the result will be stored inside this INR. Okay, second time you'll get the value which is 200. It will multiply 200 into 86 and will get the value. You can simply say it as return INR over here. We are saying it as return INR over here because we know that map function will return us something. And what kind of value that will return? It will return a new array. So as it is returning some kind of value, so we have to store inside a variable. Right? As it is returning some kind of value, so we have to store it inside a variable. Right? Because if something is returning us, that we have to store at certain place. Right? So that I can say, I'm saying it as const, let's say INR conversion. Inside this, every value, every conversion will get one by one placed over here. One by one, it will get placed inside this. And when you try to print the value, which is INR conversion, what is this INR conversion? INR conversion will get all the elements one by one after the action that we are trying to perform inside the function. This function will again applicable on each and every element of an array. However, we have seen at the time of each method. Okay, and again, when you try to print over here, this value, which is console.log, you can see that the value have been returned inside the array itself. The value have been returned inside the array itself. It have not given like 86, 70,200 one by one. It has given the value inside the array. So map method will always return an array, which will be the result of calling the function on every element of array. Okay. Now I was talking about the percentage value, right? So let's say in sometimes the e-commerce website will give you some kind of discount in the festival season. So they also apply in the same way. They'll get the price of the product, and on that product, they'll apply 20% off. Let's say 20% off. Okay, so they'll do a calculation. Element minus element in element minus element into whatever the percentage that it has given over here. So in this case, if you try to see element, what it will say is element minus let's say element into the percentage. Let's say 20%, that means that will become a 0.2. It will simply say it as 0.2 or 20 by 100. Okay, and all the values will get returned over here. 100 minus 20%, 200 minus 20%. Okay, and once it get all the values, these values, they will display on the, these values that you say, they'll display on the product price on the application. So this is how they use the map method to display the product on product price in terms of in the time or at the time of functions or any kind of offer that it is running for them. Okay. It is again exactly similar to for each, but only the difference that we have is it will return us a value in terms of a new array. So it will create a new array over here. But you might be having a doubt that what will happen to the new array. Let's try to print the new array over here. What is happening to new array? So which is my array and 1. My array, the new array, it will create a new array, but the original array will always be same, which is 100, 200, 300, 400, and 500. It is still same. It will just return you a new array without changing the original array, without updating the original. The next method that we have is a 13th one, which is filter method. Okay. Filter method is also similar to a map method that we have seen. It will also create a new array with all the elements that pass the test implementation. What it says is it will only return you the value which passes the condition, which passes the function that you have implemented for all the elements. Okay, it passes the function by the provided function over. Passes the test by the provided function over. Okay. In this case, this will also return something. So what it will return? It will create a new array. But there will not be a chances, there might not be a chances that the number of element inside the new array will be same as the number of element available inside the original array. Why? Because it says that a filter. That means it will filter out some value from the element, from the array. The name itself says filtering something, filter. So depending on the function that you are trying to provide, if it passes the function, then those value will be returned inside the array. Syntax is exactly same. Exactly same. It either have the exactly same number of element, okay, or less than that, and have exactly same number of element, or it can be less than that. But in terms of a map, it should have the exactly same number of element. Map will exactly return you the similar number of element that it is having inside the original array. But filter might not guarantee you that it will return the similar number of element. Okay, syntax is again same. Array name dot filter, it will accept a function element index and array name element. That means the current element that is being processed. Index, the index of the current element that is being processed. And array name is the array name that we are trying to use over here. Here as well, the index and array name are optional. Okay, it returns array with the either a same number of element or the less than that. Okay, what could be the example? Let's see an example over here. We have my array 1 that we have declared over here. Okay, and if we want to filter out, we basically want to filter out something in terms of, let's say, or let's say in a real time scenarios, where it will be used in terms of the development. Okay, so let's say what it does is whenever, again, let's take an example for the e-commerce website. So whenever you work for the e-commerce application, let's say Amazon or Flipkart, so what they do is they basically store all the like sales that have happened in a day. Okay, they'll store a sales that have happened inside in a single day. Okay, so they'll categorize that. So for that, they'll create an array. So let's say const, I'll say it as my array 2. And inside this array, how do we declare an array? Inside the square bracket. For this array, they'll basically store the value in terms of an object. The next thing that we'll be going through after the string will be an object. But what is object? Something that you see whenever you go through code inside the JavaScript and TypeScript, and you see something which is available inside the curly braces having a key and value pair. Key colon value pair. Example, something like this: name colon value, age colon value. This is known as an object in JavaScript and TypeScript. So in terms of an e-commerce website, what they'll say is they'll basically store all the sales that have happened in a day. Okay, so they'll say, like, let's say electronic sales. Okay, what is the number of electronic sales happen? So electronic items can be anything, right? Let's say iPhone, or let's say mobile. It can be any other gadgets for the electronic item, and they'll store all the values for the, let's say, 1 lakh rupees have been given over here, or the sales for 1 lakh rupees have happened for that day. Example. Okay, and let's say if it also mentions a product, let's say product is something known as a mobile. And second, it can go for some other product. Let's say in the electronic item itself, the laptop have been sold for 2 lakh rupees. Or in some other fashionable, let's say, category as a fashion. And for that, the total number of sales that happen is 3 lakh rupees. And the product can be, let's say an woman wear. Okay, an example. So few of the things that I have declared. So this is one element, this is second element, and this is third element over here. Okay, and now they want to get the details, like what are the elements or what are the products that have been sold for more than 1 lakh rupees. Okay, so here we'll mention the price, or sales. Will mention it over here as a sales. It also mentioned as a sales, and here also we'll mention as a sales. Okay, this is the sales happen in a day for a mobile product, for a laptop, and a so for that value, it's sales value. Try to understand. This is simple one. Okay, just try to understand over here. So they'll try to filter out the value for the day which of the product have been sold for more than 1 lakh. Okay, and depending on these sales, next day, the very next day, they'll apply some kind of discount, because to attract the people over there. And that is the strategy they'll be maintaining inside any of the e-commerce website. They'll maintain a filter over here. How will they do that? MyArray 2 dot filter. Filter will accept the function. Okay, and this function will have some kind of parameter. So I'll just say it as, let's say, element as a parameter. You can define any value, anything over here, but I'm just trying to define an element. Okay, index we do not require, because we do not require any computation in terms of index. And array name we also do not require, because we are already using it over here. Okay, and inside this we can simply say it as a logic, saying that return, also return. So we have to write it as return. This is an object. This is basically an object. Okay, whenever you create an object, so how will we create an object? Let variable name equals to object that you have defined over here. Okay, and if you have to get the value for sales, or if you have to get the value for product, you'll simply say it as obj dot product. Obj the object reference. So console.log object reference dot product over here. You say it as object reference dot product. This will get the value for this key. This is key, this is value. This is again key, this is value. Okay, so whenever you refer a key, that will return you the value. If you try to print it, you'll see that this will return as a value, which is mobile over here. And if you say it as object reference dot sales, this will return you the value for sales over here. Just one line. Okay, why did I explain? Because the same concept we are trying to apply over here. So element dot sales, if these are greater than 1 lakh rupees. If element dot sale, which will get the value from the array one by one. First time it will get this value, so this will get element dot sales, which is 1 lakh rupees, and will validate, will filter if this is greater than 1 lakh rupees. If this is not, then it will not be returned. Again, it will go for the next element, will get the element dot sales. 2 lakh rupees is greater than 1 lakh. Yes, this will return. And as it is returning something, so we can simply store it inside a variable and we'll say it as let sales. Okay, and simply say it as console.log over here, sales. This sales will return in the array format, new array format, but it will only return whatever the value that passes the function that you have implemented over here. Whichever value passes the function, that will be returned over here. In this case, if you try to print or try to execute this, you'll see that this is returning the value in terms of an array, which is sales 2 lakh rupees for laptop, sales 3 lakh rupees for product that we have received from here. So it is only returning those elements which basically passes the function, not for the first one. If you again see it as, let's say, greater than 2 lakh, at this point of time, it will just return the last element, which is sales 3 lakh rupees product women, because only this particular element is being satisfied over here. Only this particular element. Okay, so filter will filter out the element depending on whether the test that you are trying to apply inside the function is passed by the element. And whichever element passes the test, those elements will be returned from the filter function. Okay. Now we have a next method which is known as a reduce. So this will definitely be a question. What is the difference between map, filter, and reduce? Okay, so map will also return a function. Map will also return an array by creating a new array, but it will return exactly the same number of elements. Filter will also create a new array and return the array, but it will only return those elements which passes the function over, which basically passes the function. Okay, now let's talk about reduce. Reduce is a method which will accept a couple of parameters, which will accept 2 parameters. Till now, map and filter accepted 1 parameter, but reduce will accept 2 parameters, which is function, and second is a initial value. Initial value is an optional parameter. So it will accept the function and then the initial value as a parameter, which will be an optional parameter. Now, what will this particular method will do? The function that we'll be writing will apply on every element of an array and return the result as a single value, not as an array, but as a single value. Okay, example. Function will basically apply on every element of an array and return the result as a single value after going through it all the elements. Whatever the function that you apply will be applicable on all the elements, but it will return as a single value. Let's see the syntax. Syntax is a bit different over here, but most of the things are the same. Array name dot reduce as a method. It is accepting a function, and function accepts a 4 parameters over here. One is a previous value, or this is also known as accumulator. Later, I'll talk about what is accumulator. Second is a current value, which is similar to the element that we have seen over here, which is similar to the element. That means current element from the array that is being processed. Index is the index of the current value that it has taken from the array, and then array name is similar to the array name that we're using. In this case, also the index and array that you see are optional in nature. Index and array that you see are optional in nature, and whatever the code or function value that we have to write it inside the curly braces of a function. And then second parameter is an initial value, which is also optional in nature. Okay, so let's see the significance of this. The accumulator, the value returned by the last call to the function. value returned by the last call to the function. That means it will keep on accumulating the value from the previous call. It will keep on accumulating the value from the previous call. What is that? I'll explain you in next 2 minutes of time. Okay. Second is current value, similar to the element that we have seen till now. Index is similar to the index. Array is similar to the array that we have seen till now. Okay. Now, let's see. Let's see something which is, let's define an array over here, which I'll define it as, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 example. Okay. So whenever you have to calculate a sum of all the elements, or whenever you have to calculate a multiplication of all the elements, right? There we can simply use a reduce method. Or if you want to concatenate all the different strings that are available inside an array, there we can use reduce method. Okay. Now let's see an example. So if we have to do a sum of these all elements, generally how do we do is by using a for loop. Right? Generally we do by using a for loop. So for let I equals to 0. Why 0? Because index starts from 0 inside an array. I less than my array 3 dot length and I plus plus. How do we have to make the sum? We have to make the sum by simply saying it as sum equals to sum plus my array 3. How do we get the value from array? By saying it as my array 3 1. What is this sum? Or let's say total. I'll just say it as total. Total equals to total plus some value. Okay. And we have to also initialize the total with the initial value, right? So you'll say simply say it as let total equals to 0. Right? You will initially initialize the value of a total to 0. Why to 0? Because if you add 0 to any of the number will be same. Right? So first time what will happen is this total is having a value as 0. So what it says is at this point of time, for the first time, this will be 0 plus first element inside an array, which is 1. Right? Array of 0, 1. So this will become 1 value. Okay. So at this point of time, the total becomes 1. Okay. Next time when it calls, the total is 1 and 1 plus the next value is inside an array. So this becomes 2, which is equals to 3. The total becomes now 3. Next iteration, it will be 3 plus 3. So total is basically keep on accumulating the value from the previous call. Total is generally keeps on accumulating the value from the previous call, right? From the previous call, it became 1. Again, after using a previous call, it became 3. Again, in the next 3 plus 3 equals to 6. 6 plus 4 equals to 10 and so on. So this total will keep on increasing the value, whatever the resultant will be after the previous call. And that is what the significance of accumulator over here. The value returned by the last call to the function. Okay. I hope you people are following the session. Yes?
Yeah, yes, Praveen.
Okay. Now, how do we reduce? Yes. Okay. Now, how do we use the reduce function? Simple. What is array? My array 3 dot reduce the function. Reduce as a method and it accepts a function as a parameter. This is a function. Now we have to first give a accumulator, right? So accumulator we can simply say it as, let's say, total, as we have defined a total over here. Total which will keep on accumulating the value. And second is the value. Let's say current value, whatever the value that we are trying to get. Okay. So second, I'll simply say it as a number. Let's say num. This num refers to the current value, which is the current element being processed inside the array, which is similar to earlier that we have defined element over here. Okay. And then what we have to write the logic? We have to simply write the logic, which is total plus number. Return total plus number. This will also return some value. So return total plus number over here. Okay. And second parameter is an optional. So second parameter we have to provide over here as a 0. Second parameter is an initial value. What is the initial value? Initial value over here. What is the significance of this? The initial value to start the accumulator. The initial value of the accumulator. As we have declared over here, total equals to 0, so that you can define it 0. But this is not mandatory. I'll show you that JavaScript and TypeScript will automatically identify depending on the action that you are trying to perform. So if you perform an action which is multiplication, then you have to start it with a 1, because any number that you multiply with 1, that will keep on, will be the same. So total into myArray 3. And in this case, it will also return with the same value. So earlier, it should have written some value. Now it is saying, now it is basically saying int as. So you have to print console.log total, and this at this place you'll see that the value is after the multiplication is 5040. And for the sum, you have to make it as initial value as 0, because if you add any number to the 0, it will be the same number. That you can see 28 it is returning, right? So that is what the value that you have to provide as an initial value for accumulator, which is total. At this point of time, total becomes 0. So 0 plus first number becomes 1. Again, the total becomes 1. So 1 plus second number. Okay, so it keeps on accumulating and then it will return us a value. So I'll just say it as let total value equals to this, or total sum equals to this. You can simply get total sum, and this will also return the exactly same number, which is 28 over here. Okay, so now real time, when can they use? Again, whenever any product organization are there, there'll be sales happen. So they'll try to calculate the total number of sales that happen in a day. Total price sales that happen in a day. So they can use a reduce method over there as well. Okay. So reduce, well, again, like let's say initial value. If you remove the initial value, depending on the action that you are trying to perform, it will automatically take the initial value. When you are trying to perform addition, it takes initial value at 0. When you are trying to perform multiplication, it automatically takes the initial value as 1, because you are trying to perform an multiplication. So depending on the value, it will automatically take the initial value as 1 over here. You do not have to provide. Even if you provide 1, will be the result same, which is 5040. Okay, so that is the basic use of a reduce method. We have 2 more function, which is not so important, but let's see quickly, which is 15th one, a sum method. Sum will also accept a function as a parameter. Okay, and these 2 functions, which is sum and every, will return us a value in the form of true or false. Sum checks, but as the name itself says, sum, that means some element. It checks whether at least one element in the array passes the function. Checks whether at least one element in the array passes the function. Then it will return result as true, else it will return the value, return the result as false. What is meant by that? So it will try to check if any of the element that passes the function inside the array or not. If it passes the function, then it will return as a true value. If none of the element passes the function, then it will return as a false value. So array name dot sum will accept a function, will have the same 3 parameters that we have used for each, map and filter. Same things, similar concept, element the element that is being currently processed, index of the element that is currently being processed. Array name will be the same array name. Here as well, the index and array name will be optional. Let's see how do we use it. So the concept is same. Array element, index, and array name have the same concept. So we have a my3 over here that we have declared, which is having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? And let's say if you want to check if there are any element which is greater than or which is an even number. So you are trying to check if the element, if any element are available inside the myArray3 dot sum, and use a function over here, and you are trying to check if there are any of the element which is let's say something known as return element percentile 2 equals to 0. That means, are there any element which is available as an even number? Well, let's declare an array which I'll say it as myArray4, and then this one myArray4 over here. It will, if you are trying to check if any of the element that are available as an even number, if there are even number, then it will return as a true value. So it will also return something which will return in the form of boolean, so that we have to store inside a variable, which I'll say it as, let's say, let sum. Then print result. These are not so important, but if you want to validate in terms of true and false if there are any element which are available, so it again, if I talk about the product-based organization, their sales happened, and if they want to check there are any product which have been sold for more than 10 lakh rupees in a day, okay, if that is available, then it will return as a true value. So here in this case, we'll see that it will return as a true value because there are few elements which is basically available as even number, right? And now let's say what happened. We are trying to check if there are any element which is even number, and it says that false because none of the elements are available as an even number. But if at least one element are available, then it will return as a value as true. Okay, and opposite to this, we have a next number which says that 16, which is every method. We will also accept the function as a parameter, and what it will do is it checks whether all the elements are available inside an array, passes the function. Checks whether all the elements in the array passes the function. Then it will return the true. Then it will return the result as true, else it will return as a false value. Last 1 or 0 in the reduce function is the default value of accumulator. Yes, you are right, Shelly. Okay, so this for this every method as well, the syntax is exactly same, which is array name dot every. It will take a function as a parameter, element, index, and array will be the same. Significance will also be the same, element, index, and array. And then let's say if you want to check if there are any element which is greater than, or let's say if you are trying to check in the similar way, if all the elements are available inside the array, which is in the form of this one, which is in the form of even number or odd number. We can use the similar things again over here. I'll say it as, let's say, every myArray4 dot every as a function. This function accepts a parameter which is element, index, and array name are optional. So here we are trying to check if the element are available inside the array are even number. So this will return as a value which is true only if all the elements passes the condition. Okay, so in this case, what we can do is we can define an array which is like this. So we have one number, we have also, let's say, two number, we have 6 over here. So we have 3 different numbers are even number and 4 are odd, right? So in this case, every will return as a false because all the elements are not even number. But when you say it as, let's say, element is greater than 1, if all the elements that are available inside an array which is greater than or equals to 1 or greater than 0, then it will return us a true value because all the elements available inside an array are more than 0 over here. If all the element passes the condition, then it will return us a true. Else, even if a single element does not pass the condition, then it will return us a false value. Okay, but that's basically about the methods, different methods that are available inside an array. Okay, the questions that will be formed from the array is, what is difference between push method and unshift method, or what is difference between pop and shift method? What is difference between splice and slice method? And then what is difference between map, filter, and reduce function? So whenever they will be asking you any kind of questions, just explain with the example that we have gone through over here. And that will itself do the work for you. If you give them along with the example, that will give a good impression. Okay, and this is how I was saying in the initial days, that how do you have to answer the question? You frame the question answer along with the examples, and that will give them, the interviewer, a confidence that you know the concept and you also know the implementation part. And that will happen by the practice. So keep practicing. We are basically close towards the end of the TypeScript. We have strings, we have objects, we have classes to discuss, and after that, the TypeScript will be completed. Okay, so keep on practicing whatever the coding exercise that I have given you. Keep practicing. If you are not able to do that, let me know, but try to practice 1 to 25 coding exercise that I have given inside the JavaScript code interview. That is applicable for TypeScript as well, which I have given 100 different coding examples over there. Okay, so just keep practicing that. Let me know if you are not able to do that. I'll explain you. I'll write in the live session as well. But for that, you have to practice it. Which example do you want me to show, Prateek?
Last one, that
everyone. Okay. So everyone. Okay, this one you are talking about. So every is right. So every is a method which will accept a function and says that it checks whether all the elements in the array passes the function. Then it will return as a true, else it will return as a false value.
So here, for each element, it will check the condition and return, right?
Yes.
So let's say, if it is checking for each of the element and my last element satisfy the condition, so the last return will be overwritten, or how it will work. Like let's say it check for 1, it check 1 is greater than 0, then it will return true. Every becomes true, then it will come for 2. Like it's get overwritten one by one, or how it works.
No. It is not creating an array. It is not creating an array. It will just return a single value in terms of either true or false.
That I understand, like the mechanism how it works, like it will be checking for each element.
I understood what you meant to say. What you meant to say. What it will do is, it will store the value one by one for all the elements. 1 is greater than 0, true. Store the value as true. 2 is greater than 0, true. Then this value will again be stored inside an array. Okay, with this value will again be stored inside an array. So determine whether all the members of an array satisfied the specified condition. Okay, and so what it will do is, all the values, as soon as it keeps on going inside the array, all the values will be stored inside again an array as a result. So true, all the true. If it compares at the end, before returning us the value, it compares whether all the values are true or not. Okay, if that is true, then it will return us a true value. If any one of the value are false over here inside the result wherever they are storing, then it will return us a false value.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Praveen, can you please also explain about the sum?
Sum is opposite to the every. Sum was opposite to every, and it says that any one of the element passes the condition, then it will return as a true value. So in this
Okay.
example also we'll do the same thing. It will check whether the element is even number or not. First one is not even, false. Will store a false value. Second one is even, which is true. That means in this case, sum, whenever you use a sum, it will not even go beyond this level to check it out. It will not even go beyond this level because it found one value which is true. And if that is true, then it will immediately return as a true value. If this is again 1, then it will keep on checking till the last, whether do we have any true value or not.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So
But
till the point, I mean, if it's found even value, then it will not check
right,
further, right?
it will not go for validate, checking other things.
Okay. So Praveen, which method is actually used during the automation? I mean, so are they used in the real
So
world
right.
examples?
So as before the starting itself, I talked about this, that there might not be a chances that we'll be using any of the method that we are going through over here in the test automations. Okay, there
Okay.
can be a chances that sometimes we can use a push method, sometimes we can use a slice method to get some portion of the element, or sometimes a toString when you are trying to convert the array to a string and compare the value one by one. But apart from that, we'll never be using any other method that we have gone through over here. But in terms of programming, these will be helpful. Programming will be helpful like push method whenever you want to remove the array, pop method, a slice method also in terms of programming, toString, index of most of the time will be helpful whenever you are trying to check if the element are duplicated inside the array. And then these will also be helpful whenever you are going for whatever the kind of examples that we have gone through. Whenever those such kind of programmings will come, there we have to use these kind of methods. Okay, in terms of programming, this will be helpful. In terms of interview, this will be helpful. But in terms of test automation, probably none of the method will be using. Probably none of the method will be using. Okay,
Okay.
but we do not have to understand only in terms of test automation, because interview will be having a versatile, which is programming, some concept, plus then they'll go for the automation part. Right? So in terms of a test automation, we might not use any of all the 16 methods that we have used, but will be helpful in terms of programming plus interview.
Okay.
Okay. Right. I'm talking about a coding exercise that I have given inside the file, so you can just go through with that. Yes. These methods are not same in all the programming languages. Whatever the method that we have gone through are basically not same in all the programming languages. These are same in both JavaScript and TypeScript. Okay, in Java you will be using add. In Java you will be using delete, add to add the method, add the element, delete to delete the element, and some other methods are available. Slice you will be getting, slice you will definitely be getting inside that. Index of also you'll be getting, but not all the method that we have over here. Okay. So that any other question that you have for now?